later on, he texts me back and he's like, where are you at? What are you doing? And granted, I met this guy like the day before. Don't really know each other. Didn't even like him when I first met him, really.
So I feel like there's probably always an openness with like that exciting connection, but I don't know that it happens as much. But what was interesting about your story, and I'm trying to think about like stories that I've had that are similar to that, like that very like quick, fast, intense, like feels like everything. What's interesting about yours is if I've had that, it's been the opposite, meaning it was from the jump. It was like, ooh, you know, it's all the feelings immediate. What makes your story kind of intriguing to me, and I'm like wanting to ask more questions, is you were like, absolutely not. He's full of himself. So how does somebody make you, Kellie, who's a very like headstrong person, you know what you want, how does the next day it change so much? And of course, this is where I'm eating my popcorn. It sounds like it changed a lot.
It really did. And I guess I was just really became intrigued because I really thought that this guy had zero interest in me. And also it probably plays into just some of my own insecurities because he was like a model looking guy, you know? And I just, not that I haven't ever dated like really attractive people, I just don't ever see myself that way. So then seeing the type of girl he was talking to at the bar when I very first met him, I was like, okay, cool. Like that's his type of girl, like whatever. Okay. And these are things I think about in my head in about 2.3 seconds. All of that goes through my head the minute I meet somebody. That's just, I was single. I am single. That's kind of how it goes. I don't know if you analyze people that way, but I tend to. Like if I find someone attractive, I kind of do it like, I don't know. It's kind of like
a judgment, right? Oh wow.
Sort of, but I'll like do a scan and I like look around. It's like, how is he holding himself? How are his friends acting? How are he treating his friends? What kind of people is he talking to? What does he seem interested in? And I literally do that all in a matter of seconds. Yeah. And it'll go through my head and I'll be like, or no, or, see if I want to. But with this one, I was automatically just kind of like, super attractive dude. I can totally appreciate that. Let's move on. Okay. In my head.
Can I just ask a question as a 20-year friendship with you? So I know a lot. You know a lot. I know a lot. We know a lot. We're friends for a long time. That's why our podcast is so good. Brought to you by Viridian Row, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second. But can I ask you said insecurity, and it sounded like you were really going into the space of like insecure based on like, assessing like what kind of girl he would date. Do you fit that category? Just a question. Do you also feel like you ever had insecurities because of your sort of like high powered job? Your job was publicity for these amazing, huge brands that get you into this party, that party, et cetera, et cetera. You work for all these giant companies. So was a little bit of the insecurity that this is just a general maybe, did you ever worry about people's intentions when they suddenly give a lot to you, Kellie?
Yes, but that was more of a secondary thing. For me, mostly it's because I don't fit like the Barbie doll mode of what really kind of what a high-powered publicist is supposed to look like, or what, at least in my own mind, right? Because I was never, I have issues with my weight and, just different things, and I'm not really tall and all these little things that, girls go through and, everybody goes through. It's not just strictly for women, but, people go through when, it's a self-image struggle, right? And I've always kind of had that, but the mask I would put on that made it easy for me to be out and be kind of more face forward and run up and talk to people that I felt a little intimidated by was because I put my publicist mask on. And it was like somebody else is asking me to do it. I'm not doing it. So I'm not going to take it personal if somebody's not feeling it, because that's not what I would make myself. That's not what I'm going into it for anyway, right? So it's
that's a shell
mental thing. Yeah, it always was for me.
Dude, this is so funny because
I look at someone like that and I just think.
Well, and I think on one hand, you have your insane confident side, you, Kellie, you do. But I could see that part of it too. I'm thinking back to like certain career things I've done. And it's like that sort of, I work in radio. The job is to entertain. So therefore, I don't really run the risk of embarrassing myself in terms of like, if I do show some interest or whatever, or someone shows interest in me, it's like under oh well, I'm supposed to be entertaining, I'm supposed to be
right.
Charming and big energy and great personality, but the real me, had I just walked in, I might be a little, not that we're different people, I'm not saying you were a different person, but you somehow, that mask so to speak, feels kind of good, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's such a cool, it's like wearing a costume where you don't really have to put your whole self out.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of it, then when people really were interested in me, I didn't get it.
Really? Okay.
Then I was a little dense about it.
Okay.
Because I was so used to always having to be charming, always having to be on, always having to get people to quote unquote like being around me for a business sense, that when they actually wanted to be around me personally, sometimes I would miss it. And it's like one of those that you have to really kind of and say, no, I like you, before I was like, oh, okay. Oh, my bad.
You have to feel worthy. Like so you have all that in your head, just not even like you're overthinking it, but you have a little bits of these things in your mind. But then you got to get to that moment where you lock in and say, no, I'm worthy. So did that happen to you as this?
Well, it's not even a worthy thing, because I never thought about it like that. It was really, I just was like, it's, for lack of a better kind of way to say it, is like a blonde moment that it would really, I remember this quote in this movie, and it's a Rachel McAdams movie, and she's a TV show producer, but she works so much and she's so tied up with that, this guy likes her, and she says this thing is like, sometimes I don't get it until you're like, in my apartment trying to make out with me, and then I'm like, oh, you didn't really want to come see my record collection. You really liked me. And I feel like a lot of times I was, as silly as it sounds, kind of like dumb like that, like I just didn't get it. So when he's emailing me wanting to go to brunch and all that, I'm thinking he just wants to try to do events for the company that I work for. So he's trying to build a business relationship. I didn't even think more into it than that. So where, oh, go ahead.
Well, no, at what stage do you start to like now say, oh, okay. And also start to be like reassessing your confidence, because now you've put that all aside. You're like, oh wait, he's actually interested in me. That's one question. But then the other part is like, is this sort of like a love at first sight moment, because it was sort of not supposed to be, but then like all of a sudden things went really well? I mean, I know you mentioned at the beginning of the episode it was more about connection, but it kind of feels like it went from like nothing to something, which does sort of feel a little in the space of love at first sight.
Well, here's the interesting thing about it, because when it actually flipped for me was, like I said, I was at the party with my cousin. So when he came up, I was busy and we had run out of something, and I was having to deal with kind of a work crisis. So I left him there with her, and they're talking. So I take off, I go do what I'm going to do. And then I come back and he goes off and like goes to the bar or does something. Anyway, he like moves away, and she's telling me, she's like, how long have you known this guy? And I was like, no, I just met him like yesterday. And she's like, it's so weird because he just told me that he just likes you so much and you're so cool, and he's just gushing about you. She's like, it sounds like you guys have known each other forever. And I was going to ask you, how come you've never mentioned him before? And I just started laughing, and I was like, really? We literally just met.
So while this is all happening fast,
on
the outside looking in, your cousin who's there sees or even hears from him? Like, does he express that?
Like he told her. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember how it prompted, but she had said something, and he was telling her like, oh my gosh, I really like her. I hope we really stay friends, and can't wait to hang out with her back in Los Angeles. Like, she's just going on and on and on.
Oh, because you're at Austin South by Southwest.
Yeah, and I wasn't there. So they're having this conversation when I'm off doing, I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So then I come back, he goes, and then she pulls me aside and she like tells me this, and I was just shocked. I was like, really?
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, huh. So that's when I started thinking about it in a different way. And we, just had like so much fun, and we were dancing and just like having a really great time, but just like a fun, innocent, just really connected time of enjoying the company of someone else without, always people want to talk to me about work. They always want to bring up, who do you know? What do you do? All that stuff. And we didn't have that. It was really just fun and light. And that was what was so refreshing and so much fun for me, because I didn't have to wear that PR face all night long. You know what I mean? Like, I got to kind of take that off.
I feel like that's got to be the hardest for you with publicity, is that it's always like, you know, even if let's say it's you feeling the guy more than him being interested in you, it's like you got to worry about like his intentions. Is this just what I can do for him in terms of my job and the access that I have? You know, you have to worry about that. But I'm glad you are in this story at least channeling in on your like, no, I'm like amazing, of course, but it is just so funny that things move so fast that you kind of don't even like have that openness, you know, because you're such a worker. Yeah.
And it happened, like I said, within a matter of like a day, over a couple of emails. And by this point, we had really been hanging out with each other for like an hour.
Yeah.
So it was so fast, and I didn't really it just completely flipped it. And then I started looking at the whole situation differently. And then I became more open to actually appreciate what was going on.
Right.
And, you know, and it could have gone the distance that evening, but, you know, for a whole bunch of reasons.
She said the distance.
I still regret that to this day sometimes. But
when you were more agile, you know, when you were working it out. Yeah.
But that like begs the question though. Because to be honest, I don't know that I've ever been on his side of a situation like that. I can't remember a time where I actually met someone who was like instantly like, oh my gosh, like you are just such an awesome person, without that preconceived notion that I gave him when I first met him. Like, I don't know that I have ever been that open to really be able to be that vulnerable and say, you know, hey, I appreciate everything that you are right now. And I just want to be in this moment the way that he was. And I really admired that about him.
Okay. Could it have been the travel aspect? So like there's an excitement. We both live in LA. If this does go and it is kind of like a moment, we can revisit in LA. So there's an excitement there. So that's one side of me wondering why it happened when it happened. I thought the end of the story, by the way, to be honest with you, even though we talk almost every day, I thought the end of the story was cut to he and I are getting married. You know? I was like, is this the story she tells me she's married? No wonder she's not returning my text, her long-term friend for 100 years. Like, what was it? But so one hand of it is, I think the excitement is something that, yes, because I guess your question is like, has it happened to you and can it still happen? I think when you put yourself in situations, because I'm thinking about like a wedding I'm going to go to or whatever. And I'm like, ooh, at the wedding. And it's not even about who is going to be there. It's just the energy of a destination wedding. It's sort of like a chance to be a version of yourself, but like a little amplified. So I think the fact that he knew, because he lived in LA also.
Yeah.
So you didn't know him. You both live in LA. No. Let's have a little fun. And if it goes, we can revisit. I think that to me is exciting. But the only other question I'm going to say is that something that just happens when you are in your, you know, early 30s, late 20s? Like, can we?
Well, I wasn't in my early 30s. I was in my late 30s. This was only like 5 years ago.
Oh, she's basically saying she still got it. Okay. Okay. Then I'm being the lazy one who's saying that I feel like those exciting moments, I just am so about them back in the day. I just don't know that I'm that interested. But you weren't either. You were like shocked.
No,
it kind of happened. Yeah.
That's my point, is I feel like because I was so jaded and just so not.
You were jaded. Are you going to say that and own that? Wow. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Are we all are though.
I think we get to that point because there's a rotating door of the same type of people that you're meeting, and then you start to stereotype them. At least I know I did.
Yeah.
Because it would just get categorized by people that, you know, I was working with, and that kind of relationship, whatever that was. And you kind of put people in their categories. And that's what I started to do. Because when I first started it was like, we're all friends, but no, we're not friends. We're work friends or colleagues or contacts or whatever, but we're not friends. Like, not everybody's friends. So then everybody kind of goes into their pocket. So I absolutely was jaded with this. And like I said, I totally brushed him off, didn't give it a second thought until I looked and I didn't even, never in a million years did I think he was actually going to email me. And then he did, like that same day. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. But still, it took me until he made those comments to my cousin for me to even see anything other than just, this is somebody trying to get business. I really didn't.
Well, so many thoughts, and we will pick up on that. Kellie, if you don't mind, we do love to show love for our show. You know, Difficult Podcasters, we have a really great time doing it. I guess over 45 episodes. It's been really fun with you. We've had this and many other conversations. So definitely go to the archives and check out the other ones. Kellie, if you can you give me a little information on Patreon? Let's talk about it.
On Viridian Row? Well.
Oh, did I say Patreon? I meant Viridian Row.
ViridianRow.com has been with us since the beginning. It is such a great small business. You can get really cool new vintage and resale items and also customize t-shirts, hats, cups, bags, all kinds of cool stuff. So
I meant Viridian Row, our sponsor.
Small business.
This is what I meant. Viridian Row, where creativity never goes out of style.
That's right. ViridianRow.com. Check it out.
Why do you think I said Patreon? Because I was like selfishly thinking of my own Patreon, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, what a dork.
Because I'm talking about chemistry and connections and you're thinking about Patreon.
Well, don't I have a chemistry and connection with with Patreon and money? You know, my two favorite. Listen, Kellie, my two favorite colors in terms of like green is Viridian for Viridian Row, and then green like Cash Money. So forgive me. Yes, you want to support, you support my Patreon, but you also support ViridianRow.com and all those good things too. You asked so many wonderful questions, and I don't know why. Maybe it's a crutch that I have that I feel like, I love being over 40 years old, but I seem to not. Like you said, oh, that was just a couple years ago. For me, I'm like, yeah, that could totally happen at this stage. But like right now, nah, I don't know. But I should open up to the idea that like, yeah, like you do kind of meet people and it gets exciting and it gets, you let the wall down a little bit and enjoy. I mean,
granted, he was maybe like a good chunk younger than me also, which I forgot to mention. Yeah. So that could be the stages in life where he was at, the bright-eyed, wide-eyed, and hey, let's just lay it all out there because why not?
Right. Well, listen, if
I had already surpassed that. So
if he's in his early 20s and he finds an amazing Kellie, oh my God, I could see why Kellie. So this is the part of the story that you got to own that. Like you're forgetting that like this is the exciting.
Maybe this is late 20. I don't know.
But meeting someone as cool as you after. So let's just say, like you said a second ago, he has all these really, what'd you say, Barbie? This kind of like stereotypical girl that he would go for. But
that's the thing is, I didn't even know if that was. That's just what he happened to be talking to when I saw him. So I don't even. I mean, if he was after me, clearly that's not his. His type. But
I was just giving you like it's so refreshing to know that you were refreshing for him, so that's the part that you're just like, oh yeah, like it really, that's probably what it was. You're so different, you're such a great communicator, you're so fun. Like I could see how if he is constantly like, with bimbo number 1 and bimbo number 2 and then Kellie comes along, like, like this. So
and which was really, really nice for me and definitely a confidence booster to be appreciated for who I was, not what, but who I was and am at that moment. Because when you are a strong, opinionated, very verbal, strong-headed woman, you get a lot of hate for that.
Right.
In all aspects of it. And people always want you to kind of dumb yourself down a bit to make them more comfortable. And I had gotten pretty used to having to kind of not say too much with, for fear of that. And I'm so glad that I kind of got out of that. Yeah.
So when you would go dating, was it kind of like a different version of yourself? Like your headstrong personality was needed for your career to succeed the way that it did. I would hate to say it, but I guess this might be part of the truth is like, did you feel like you went into these dates, not with him, but just in general, where you had to show a different side, a softer, like a,
yeah.
it's weird because it almost sounds like,
and I wanted to, because
yeah.
but then if I met somebody while I was working, they were attracted to the hardcore.
Okay,
you know?
okay.
So then when I gave the softer side, it was like, wait,
yeah,
what? That's not what I signed up for.
way
But
aside from
that's
the
really kind of
way aside from the dating part, like this is
mhm.
coming out of the dating part of it, but just evaluating like you or other really badass women that I knew who are just like really like confident or whatever. I just think there's that really unfortunate misconception that they always want to just be at 100, but like I'm not
Yeah.
just saying you only, but I know other women like yourself that like you appreciate you know, the soft things too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even as I'm saying, like, even as your friend, I've always been like, well, Kellie will get it done. And it's like, wait, Kellie's soft and has tears like the rest of us, you know. And I
Why do
don't
I
think,
always have to get it done?
why does Kellie always have to get it done? Yeah. Yeah. But isn't it weird? Like, that's how we look up to you in that way. You know, I looked up to you because you're significantly older than me. So I was like, Kellie's like my much older sister in this
Yeah, no.
in this career.
No, sir. No, sir. You take that back right now.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
not
No, but isn't
accurate.
that funny though? That like the women who
Yeah.
really carry that strength along their whatever they got to do in terms of work and just to, I don't know, just to not deal with the BS. It's like suddenly like no one ever checks on them. Like, how are you doing? You know?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate, but it also is of our own making, because we couldn't be any other way.
Mm.
So it's like.